What's your sign? What's your sign, baby? What's your sign? What's your sign?
Welcome to What's Your Sign? I'm Julia Loken.
I'm Stevie Goldstein.
And I'm the angel numbers of this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, that was sick.
Wow.
It was wild.
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah. Yesterday, the three of us drove to an undisclosed location. The three of us were in a car on our way to an event, and we saw straight up all of the angel number license plates.
So I think 6 or 7 at least. Not every number, but many numbers.
We didn't see 1 and 9.
Yeah, 1
We
and
saw
9 are the
everything
only
in
ones that we
between.
missed. Yeah.
And we saw
because
doubles of 7
Mhm.
and something else.
I think we
too.
saw, I want to say we saw like triples of 7 by the end of that trip.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, and we weren't looking. Just
No,
so
we
everybody
weren't.
knows. We weren't like scanning every license plate. And these were
No.
majority license plates, a few addresses, I think.
We also
this
saw-
is where else are you going to see
Yeah.
numbers? Like, this is where it's at.
I think by the end of the night it consolidated into license plates. We saw some road signs, but then it was like, no, we saw a 444 on the
On a license
crossed
plate,
it
yeah.
off.
Wait, I want to do something crazy, and I can
Okay.
do this in the background.
Stevie, don't.
No.
What? Remind me all the numbers. I want to add it up and see what number
my God,
we
and see-
get,
okay.
and then go from there.
Hang on.
Okay, so-
Hang on. I took pictures of some
before
of
you
them.
picked me up, you had a 777.
We had a 777 right in front of us. Then we picked Stevie up and we had a 333 and an 888
Yeah,
right
back
next
to
to
back.
At
each
the
other.
same stop. Yeah.
Mhm.
That was wild.
Okay.
Okay.
777.
We had a
888.
4444 on a building. It
Should I
was
include
4
that extra
4s.
4?
I don't know. I guess because it's a
I'll keep
four.
it. I'll write it down.
Hey,
just
you
in
said you
case.
were going to be crazy.
Okay, let's go for it.
Then we
Okay.
got a 666.
I remember exactly
Oh,
what we
the
were talking about when we
666
got
was wild,
that too.
yes.
Yeah, we got the 666. I
This
know
was
we
also
got
a 20-minute drive, by the way. This
Yeah,
wasn't
It was,
like
yeah, it was not a road trip.
Then after that 666, I remember we got a second 777
Yep, I remember that too.
because that was when we made the wrong left turn, which
Mhm.
I mean,
Which
was
turned out to be the right
turned
one.
out to be right. We also
Yeah.
saw that
amazing
farmhouse.
farmhouse.
Yeah.
Okay, 777.
And
Then we went to
then
the
we saw-
event.
Then we had the event, and then when we were leaving, we saw the 222 because that was the
222,
number
yeah.
that you said you never see.
I never. Yep. And no
I know we
555
saw-
then.
No,
Oh, I
okay,
think
so
we
we're missing.
didn't.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
we
okay.
were missing
But
5.
this was
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is that? And then you saw one more after you
we
dropped me off?
saw after
We
we
count
dropped
this.
you off.
Actually, I said, is that a 222? It was 272. And I looked over to the left and the other car was a 222.
Yeah,
And I was like,
Whoa.
"Ugh."
So that
We
not that
both
last.
were like,
That's the
We-
last 222.
we saw the two. Yes,
reported. Okay.
we saw a second 222. We saw a 000, which doesn't add anything to
Yeah,
the score, but we
yeah.
did see it. We were like,
We'll count it.
okay,
Okay.
notable. And then I saw some more I saw another 333, another 444, but I also feel like let's not count it because
Mhm. This is like
It wasn't
car
part of the
drive.
journey.
Yes.
yes.
So we have 777 333 888 4444 666 777 222 000 000 is the last clocked
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
one.
Mhm.
and
Okay.
I think also I want y'all to know the engine didn't go off. Like it was the drive. Like
Yeah.
it was, we didn't, I guess the engine went off at the event. That would be the only time. But like
Mhm.
we were all like together on a journey, I guess is
Yes.
what I'm getting. Yeah.
The round
Mhm.
trip destination angel
Mhm.
number exploration. I think it counts.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm gonna be
Girl math.
calculating.
Do your girl math.
I'm gonna be calculating and seeing what happens from this. Now I'm like, do I take that extra 4 off? I don't think I need to.
Okay, here's a question. I don't mean on this trip. I mean in general, and I feel like we've talked about this before. Have we done an angel number episode?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
we
we
have,
did.
right?
long ago.
What?
Maybe not that long ago. Maybe like in 2021.
Yeah, because I was like, this is ringing a bell that we did an angel number episode.
We could even do a fucking episode on each like number.
On each number.
Yeah, that
I
would
mean,
be like a numerology type. Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
just yeah, or we talked about each number and like angel numbers in general, but yeah, I mean numbers themselves. Okay, do you guys want the total number of
Yes.
the angel? So the total number is 8,107.
Okay.
That's with everything.
9
So
plus
let's
7.
9 plus 7
is
16.
16 is 7.
Seven.
Which we saw the most.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, true girl math, true.
The girl math adds up.
It was just a lot. And
It was
like
wild.
sometimes you'll see 2 and that's like, oh look, they're really speaking to me. But that was just like, but it would come up when we would talk about certain things too. Like it was like a confirmation of like what just was said, or maybe not confirmation, but like it was a nod to the subject matter.
Totally.
And it was like, I never see this one. And then we saw it. And then it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
is that? No, it wasn't that. And then it was like, but that
It
is
was right there. Yeah. It was like so wild.
All right, guys, 8107. See if those that random order comes up. Wouldn't that be crazy? And there you go.
I like 107. That's a number that I like.
This is what a car ride's like with the 3 of us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was gonna say I feel like not in this instance, because this also was like, it doesn't need to. I feel like angel numbers don't need to mean more than anything. Then it was like, oh, we just had a fun car ride and we were looking at these things and now we did this fun math exercise and go like, oh my god, it adds up to 7. Like
This is life, baby.
This is magic enough for me. I don't need it to mean anything further. But when you do see angel numbers, what do you typically say that they mean? Do you go by the numbers, or are you just a general, an angel number, that's nice?
I go by the numbers because
I
think
do
we were
too,
talking
I
about
think.
444 a lot. I think I do see a lot of 444, and I think of home. I go with like the astrology houses of it, and I feel like whenever there's a 444, it's like, oh, I was affirmed in my like sanctuary keeping. Like I'd said no, like I think of like doing the things that are like about you, and like 111 is always like you're right. Like that's how I always view it, as like, no bitch, you're right, they're wrong. Those ones I see quite often, and 777, but I'm also like, that's my that's my I have it tatted on my bod, and I think of it as like just spirit and luck. Those are ones I think about the most.
Okay.
But I do take their number as like the message.
I do too. I see a lot of 333. And then
Which makes you think of you guys. When I see 333, because
Same.
Enneagram 3s, those are, and I think that was the first one we saw with me in the car.
Yeah.
All of us together.
Yeah.
So
And
there you go.
I also see my birthday on the clock a lot. So
Okay.
a lot of the times I look and it's my birthday, and I'm like, that to me is like what you're saying about 1. Where I'm like, oh, this is about me, and I'm like, I need to take a moment for me, or I'm right, or I'm okay, or like all of those kind of things. Yeah.
What about, well,
I do see them a lot. I think sometimes I can get a little obsessive or a little bit like gamifying it, where I'm like, I want to see the thing, or I'll look right at the thing. But I also find that I will like wake up often, either at a time or right before a time, when I go like, oh, you needed to be up to like, not you needed to be up, but like, oh, you woke up to see this number or whatever kind of thing. But I try to take all of them as just like a moment to go, oh, that's like a nod saying you're in the right spot, or you're looking for the right things. If you're looking for something to kind of give you magic and wonder and awe, like, you're gonna find it.
The pat on the back. Yeah.
Yes. Like, hey, we're with you. Angels are with you. I don't know if it's as literal as angels, because I don't know who I'm like thinking of necessarily, but just that like, that's a nice thing. I got 666 on a receipt the other day, and I was just like, oh, that's fun. You know what I mean? Like that. I think it's that where I go like, oh, okay, a moment to just go like, oh, whoa.
So I was like, well, it's something we asked in the car, because obviously we're sounding like real woo girlies right now, but I think I brought up like, well, what percentage of license plates do have angel numbers? Because that will, I think, also blow my mind or verify some things. Not to say that those messages don't mean anything, but like, do half? Because then like, who cares?
Yeah.
If this Reddit thread is real or accurate, someone did the math of like the probability that a license plate would have. Now, again, we don't know people have custom plates.
Yeah.
Let's just go automated, right? or the impossible combination of automated plates. They're saying the odds would be like 0.03% that it would have an angel number. Now, this is Reddit, so I don't know 100% certain. So if you're like, if you know this,
if you're a statistician,
less than a percentage, we can go with less than a percentage. I feel like is
if you're someone that works at the DMV or is knows probability stats, I actually am very curious, like what's up, because license plates are the number one place, but it can't be that high. Right. But or is it like odds where when you flip a coin you actually get heads more in a row than you think because no one bets on that, but that's actually how odds work.
That's why we're called the City of Angels, baby.
We might get an angel like expert. I want someone who like speaks to angels. I think that would be really sick.
RIP, she's not actually an angel
Doreen.
now, but Doreen Virtue, we miss you, girl. We need you back on our side.
Maybe this will be her sign. Angels are calling you home.
Yeah.
What is she, just very Christian now, or like she's got a different bed? Yeah.
So maybe we don't need her. Maybe we need the new Doreen Virtue.
There is a place here. I wonder if it closed during COVID, and now I don't remember. It was like a metaphysical store that was all angel themed, and it was called something angel. Now I can't remember, and I definitely think they had someone who would like read angels.
God, I love angels.
Ugh, I can't find it, but if I do, it might have closed during COVID. It was like definitely on the west side too. I'll keep an eye out.
A real journey. I'll relink the angel numbers episode in our show notes, and if I can do that, and definitely in our stories. And I assume most of you follow us on Instagram. I don't think we ever plug our Instagram because it's like warm up, but at What's Your Sign Podcast. And across pretty much all the platforms.
Follow
us on
us.
YouTube. This is a video episode, and that will come in handy in just a little bit for sure. I mean, I guess you could see us geeking out over angel numbers.
Well, it's like I'm gonna share these license plate pictures with you too, so we can share this in our
on them
socials.
Yeah,
so you guys can also see. Again, I didn't have all of them because we also are moving fast, and
Oh, the pictures of the plates. Oh yeah, you took them. Yeah,
I did, to document where I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with these just to have, but I'm glad I had them for this girl math.
Yeah, we can collage it. Well, now it's our new angel number 8107 or just 7. Yeah, that was sick.
That was a wild journey.
It was. Well, you were on the way. You were using Waze, right? Are you a Waze? Yeah. Waze always just takes you where you don't even think you need to go.
Yeah, and then also we made that one wrong turn, and that was like very interesting. Yeah,
that was cool. The right turn.
Yeah,
again,
the right left turn.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. At first, before you said angel numbers, I thought you were gonna say I'm the Lisa Chanoux of this podcast.
Oh, I haven't done that one yet.
Oh no,
I'll save it for the episode after Julia's baby's born. That would be so rude.
Well, if that's the name of my baby.
I actually have some things I want to talk about this week.
Lisa Chanoux, Logan
Hernandez. Well, of course not. I mean, we're not burying the lead. We're revealing the lead now. Of course, we're talking about Lisa's chart today. Woo! The time has come. Patiently waited.
Yeah.
It's time to rain on you.
Yeah. We thank you to the listener who requested we talk about our charts, and we had so much to go over. We each have a full episode on it, which I'm so glad, because it's really illuminated different placements, especially how people are experiencing them. I think we were talking about this last night at the event with some other astrology people of like, what our podcast is and what astrology is and isn't. And I think just being able to have conversations with your friends about how they're experiencing their chart, not looking and going like, so you have Aquarius Mars, so that is you, right? It's like, I mean, you can do some form of that, but also like, how's that been? Like, where has that shown up in your life, if any times that's been illuminated? So I think this has been just a fun thing selfishly for us, but I think it's a good reminder maybe to do this with your friends. Like sit and like really look at one friend's chart for like an hour, and it's like I don't know, you can learn a lot.
We don't necessarily like ask each other these kinds of questions, but I think that they are like helpful or illuminating, like you said. And it's sometimes it's like you want to share. I know for me, sometimes I'm like, I want to share more of myself, but there isn't necessarily like a specific thing you want to talk about, or you don't want to be like, let me talk about this specific trauma or whatever, but you do want people to have insight into how you process or how you're feeling or what your kind of general state is. And I think that this is a fun way to do that, and then to be aware where it's, again, not because you have like a fight and have to have something specific come up, but you get to just say like, hey, just so you know, this is like how I think about things, this is how I process, this is how I generally view myself. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And that's always tie you to me, Lisa, as the two Tauruses. But I think too that argument, right, of like, oh, so you're both this, or like every Taurus is this, and it's like, no, even though of course we have like a lot of crossover and are probably more similar than different. I think the three of us are, but it's still like, you know, where it's mix and match. I'll screen share. We can really.
You and I have a lot in common too, I think, just in our charts. And I find that a lot of the time, like, you'll be doing what I'm doing. Like, you'll say, and I'll be like, oh my God, I'm doing that too. Or like, so it does feel like, even though obviously like we look different and we have like different lives and everything, but like we are kind of on similar paths. So that I think that for me always makes it come back to that.
And our rising sextile, you know, like we don't have like crazy different rising setups. So I think even though we do have different energies, that does happen a lot. It's like, I'm at the movies, like, or like these similar, we're tapped into some higher power. But wait, what? Remember, like for first or second or third episodes, what sign did you think your moon? Because you had the wrong. You thought you were an Aquarius moon at first.
It was 87, I think, was the.
You had the wrong.
I had the wrong year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, doesn't not fit. I mean, it does. I feel like it doesn't fit in terms of the moon, but also because you have this Aquarius Mars exactly conjunct your midheaven. I do feel like, you know, you would resonate with Aquarian traits, and having it in Mars, having it so prominent fits where you would read that and go like, oh yeah, I identify with a lot of that kind of stuff, because I think that Mars, while it's not the same as the moon, it is still a very visceral and maybe this isn't the right word, but like emotional planet. It is emotional. It is that, like, you know, you want to, it's that drive and passion and all of that sort of thing. So I could absolutely see where you would go,
oh, that fits.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah, totally.
And in this tease, that Mars, I mean, just to get into that
we're starting at the, well, how can you not start at the top? At the top, MC, that's very, you know, that does catch your eye, I think, especially with that T-square you're referencing.
And I think in that T-square with Jupiter in Taurus and Pluto in Scorpio, and it's all almost exact, definitely an exact square with almost to the minute with Jupiter.
Whoa.
And then pretty tight with Pluto. What does that feel like?
I feel like I'm in flux a lot, actually. I feel like I'm not always, and maybe it is like more of the lunar influence and being Cancer, but I do feel like some of the time I'm really like on and I'm in flow, and I feel like I can balance the three, and sometimes when I'm not, it can be really tough. And I think mostly because the Mars is at the top for me, I feel like if I don't get into my body at some point during the day, I end up very emotional. I end up like I'm not able to process correctly, and I'll get like upset or angry quickly. I mean, like, not I say like road rage as an example, where it's like I can like get there really fast if I'm not in a good state in my body, I guess.
Sure.
But I don't mean like sick either, because like I think when I'm sick, I don't have that. I don't get emotional. I mean, I can get emotional, but I'm not like move or whatever. I just feel like resting. But yeah, I guess if I don't know, I guess I have like a lot of energy in my body.
I mean, that fits, having that Mars so prominent. I think that that fits saying of the like physical processing of those and having that be where that all kind of coalesces, because I think of all three of those as kind of slower processors because they are all fixed and they all are coming. I mean, these are real power players to having real specific points of view. So if it's like you want to get lost in the sauce in any of these, you really can without having that kind of physical outlet to kind of pull you out of it. I could totally see how that is the kind of like thing that removes you, that goes like, oh, okay, how do I keep these in check?
I think I process really quick. And so like, I do need to slow down a lot of the time. And I don't always let myself unless I'm like a little tired from a workout or I took a super hot shower or something like that. And I think, it can be tough, but I like that I kind of, I guess, like know how to mitigate it or whatever.
Well, I mean, especially on the Jupiter end, because you have this Sun Mercury conjunction with Jupiter there, I think fast processing, or like one on this Taurus side for sure is like, oh, you have all of the tools to make your stand on this side for sure, you know?
I think it's blunt too, like those. Yeah. I think I process quick, but I'm not. I know I get lengthy on this podcast, but I'm not generally like long-winded.
That's something a note that I wrote down, because I always forget that you have that Sun Mercury conjunction. Again, really almost to the minute exact within a degree of each other, and within the like one, you know, even the minutes are within a minute of each other. So it feels like they are very close. I want to celebrate your acuity with like giving instructions and having really concise communication, when especially if it's coming down to like, how are we, you know, sending these emails of like what we need, what are the deliverables, all of these kinds of things. I think you're so good at breaking down information in a concise way that's like so I'm like blown away truly every time you do it. As the most long-winded person on earth. I'm like, dang, how do we shorten this? And I'm like, oh, it's that, whatever it is.
Well, I think I always admire like y'all's humor and ability to like take me to the next place too, because I think sometimes I'm like, yeah, we got it, it's right here, and then it's like, no, but there's more, and I don't always let myself explore the more, and I think parts of my chart really want that. So
but that is, I mean, and you just said it too, and I think the humor comes also from having such a true ground like perspective. This to me, sun conjunct Jupiter and Mercury is perspective. And if we're talking about stand-up, or if we're talking about instructions, whatever it is, it's about communicating ideas really clearly from where you are. And I think that you have that so strongly in your chart.
I think too, I think with Jupiter too, it like, since it amplifies, and then Mercury, I think, can take on the benefic or malefic depending on what's by it. And so since you have this like Sun Jupiter sandwich with Mercury, I think you're a classic Taurus Mercury. Like when I hear, like, even just your voice, your vocal quality is very Taurus Mercury. And even though Jupiter does give this idea of a lot, Taurus is not a give you a lot sign, you know, as a Taurus, like, unless you deserve it, like, unless I've declared like you deserve this thing. So I think that also like is lovely in that mix, especially since I met the two of you together. I'm like, yes, Julia being more longer winded and Lisa more short winded. Would that be the term?
Yeah.
But it's because it's like concise. It's just like, you know, it's that, I think even in your stand up, it's like that look of, is sardonic the word? Like just that no, you know, like, or like a flat, like, but it hits. I don't know. Well, I'm curious too, just to come back to your Aqua Mars, and you don't have to like reveal like past. I'm curious what astrologer, if you had readings, or what have people said in terms of career stuff for you? Because I'm curious, like, you know, you see this and it's like, I'm guessing leader things, or like, you know, inventive, or taking things. I'm curious if any themes have come up and if they hit for you or don't hit for you, or like what's maybe percolated from like the Aqua Mars with career-based stuff.
Well, the most recent reading I had was with Robert Hand, and I I was really blown away. And he's very esoteric and philosophical, and so it's a lot of information to take in. I do recommend getting a reading from him, but I also recommend maybe having some astrology knowledge. Also, he may have catered that toward me because I told him I have astrology knowledge. I don't know for sure, but he definitely was talking about, because I was asking him about stand-up and bartending and a bunch of other things, and he was telling me to really focus more towards comedy, because he was seeing it as working with groups of people. And so that being the Aquarius Mars part of it, of like the one-on-one thing is probably not where I feel the most useful. And I definitely resonate with that, like, because one of the reasons that bartending is hard is because people come to you with their problems, and one of the reasons that taking on astrology clients is hard is because people come to you with their problems, and it's very difficult for me to like take myself out of that equation versus being in a group setting. People, obviously so many people are afraid of public speaking, but to me, I actually feel a little bit more able to share my stuff. So I think that really resonated for me. Also, like, when we were talking about this stuff, I was in a very bad place with my job. So like, I was like, oh yeah, you're right, I should just be doing comedy only. But of course, like, I can manage to do the other things as well. It's just, it takes me being in a specific kind of place, I think.
That's so interesting. I thank you for sharing that insight, because I think that's a great reminder of the Leo Aquarius access too, of just like, like that maybe one-on-one therapy type feeling. It might be just like I don't know, might not be where you're like, you might have more strengths with reaching a larger audience, or like more people are doing something that is more collective. I mean, I think podcasting falls under that category as well.
Well, I think too, I mean, just from,
not that you can't, but where it might feel more home.
But from an outside perspective, I think that you are so good in so many kind of group situations like that, like being the host of something, thinking about this in like kind of like definitely a service industry type of thing, where it's not necessarily, again, where you're talking to someone one-on-one, but you're going like, what's the flow? Do we have enough stuff for everyone? What's your role in this? But I also think that you are very good at like seeing yourself as part of a group, if that makes sense, and recognizing when there are groups of people thinking about like wanting to start women in service, women in comedy, any of those things, and going like, oh, I can see where we are a larger group. Whereas I think some people, I'm thinking of myself, where it's like, oh, I don't know if I belong in this group or in this group or whatever. What's my role in here? And I think that having that Mars there, like, you see the groups too.
Well, I think the Leo I see for sure is what that is, because I came from, my family origin is like an extremely tight knit family. They're not super welcoming to people. It's very like gatekeepy stuff is like very easy for me to fall into or whatever, but always being a part of it. And then always also, I was the first girl, and so I was like special, and everyone was doting on me a lot when I was a kid and stuff, and definitely feeling that I was loved and valued and all of those kind of things. And I think moving into like school and things, like, you expect to be treated that way. You find out very quickly, that actually takes being smart and being, like, to be valued and being able to talk to people and whatever. You have to like kind of find that out quickly, that it's not just inherent. And so, but I do think coming from that place of like, having like the lion's pride or whatever as a family, I think that really did influence those kind of things.
Well, I think you can't find yourself valuable in a group if you don't inherently feel self-worth in some way, or that you have something to contribute, that you are like, so that totally makes sense of that coming from the Leo I see, and having that Mars up there of also wanting to make sure other people are feeling welcome and those things. I've definitely seen you talk to people and make sure that they feel welcome, and that make sure that they know where things are, know what the party is, and see everybody again as like, this is the party, not the person I'm having a good one-on-one with necessarily.
Sometimes you have to be like tell yourself like, hey, you're here, like you were invited or whatever, so you're here, so you're a part of it, so be a part of it and just do it. And also, I mean, I've definitely heard from younger comics like, I was so afraid of you when I first started, like I didn't know you were nice, like all of those kind of things, which I think is definitely that axis too of like, there's a little warmth underneath the cool Aquarius vibe or whatever. And definitely on stage, I definitely play into a more, you know, sarcastic, cool guy kind of persona. And that's not always who I am off stage, but it is kind of how I think, you know.
So. Lisa's always the Fonz in my just, but I like the Leo icy stuff that you mentioned with like being this first girl and like the, you know, adoration. Cause like, I don't know if I've ever said this on the pod, but I think Tauruses, especially since that's like sun ruled fourth house, Tauruses are big princess and like Tauruses can like grit down and do it. But also there is this like where Leo is the queen. I do think of Taurus as like the princess royal court.
Totally.
No, I love that. Well, like Taurus is, you know, with the rising too on top of it. What tell us, you know, we've talked a bit about the 12th house in this pod and like your experience of being quite a 12th, you know, you got a fat stack in both the 12th and 8th, which I think are houses that people generally are like, oh, what the fuck? I'm curious, just like, and they're trining, you know, it's all the earth stuff, like really in agreement with the 8th and 12th. Insider info, smash or pass or both.
I say smash. I think one of the things,
of course, you would 8th house.
I think one of the things about both of those houses is that there are definitely parts of my life that I really like to be hidden. And there are times when I don't feel like saying, follow me on this or do that. And I think you've probably heard me do it, like, don't follow me anywhere or whatever, and I try to, I know that the career path I've chosen is not conducive to being that. And so I try to be a good sport about it most of the time, even when sometimes it makes me uncomfortable. If I'm opening for a comic, this happened, and he on stage like asked me if I could shoot a quick video of one of his bits. So I got my phone and like came up or whatever. And while I was doing it, he was like, oh, make sure you follow my opener, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know, we don't have to, I'm just doing a video. Like, this is your time, that kind of thing. I get a little uncomfortable. And I think a lot of the time I definitely like big glasses, I think, is another one where I'm like, I just kind of feel like blending into the thing. It doesn't blend in. I don't know why I feel like it does, you know, but it's like I feel a little bit more hidden. And I definitely like some of those quieter behind the scenes places for sure.
Yeah, totally. I think, and this is not a bad thing. It's always a thing I note about you is like, you'll be like, I just got back from this vacation or dive. I'm like, you did? Like, where did you go? Like, I didn't know you went anywhere. And I mean, we talk, like, I'm not like, you know, we're in each other's lives, but I think you also are like, yeah, I mean, Scott just dipped away to this, or we did this. And you like, yeah, you have this, like, I don't know, this slinky thing that I don't do that, you know, like, I feel like I'm the opposite of that. So I'm always like, oh, that's cool. Like, I like this little keeping it, you know?
I feel like with Jupiter there too, I do feel like I have good luck in secrecy. Like if I start telling people about something that's going to happen, it never happens. If I start like, you know, I do feel like there is a part of me that is very security minded and like focused on safety, very Taurus stellium stuff. And so I think a lot of the privacy thing to me is like, oh, I don't want to be unsafe. You watch those TikToks where someone's like, I found out from your Instagram exactly where your location is. Yeah. And it's like that kind of stuff to me. I'm like, oh, I should be waiting till later to tell people where I am, especially because I am visible in a lot. You can see where you can see me this month, or like, you know what I mean?
Wiki
find
me,
you
know, like you're out there.
Well, and that Jupiter is still opposite Pluto, which I think is like can be really powerful and alchemizing, but it also still is that like growth versus kind of safety, or both of those things. And I think Jupiter and Taurus is already kind of safety. How are we growing our kind of like physical, tangible usable resources. While it's in the 12th, that's, I think, maybe harder to define. That gives it a more spiritual kind of area of it's like being your own. I know obviously you are into meditation and yoga and spiritual practices and all growing your spiritual knowledge and lexicon and availability. So it's not, I think, as like just about money or whatever, but I do still think it's at odds with that Pluto in the 6th house that is about self-protection and protecting your physical body, but also your kind of day-to-day, your work, the things that sustain you in this way, and having it be while being out front in those groups is a way for you to kind of also like mitigate that power struggle. It also is still at odds with the feeling of being safe.
Well, one of the interesting things from Robert Hand's reading, and also like that was just FYI for everyone, that was done in the whole sign. So it is a little bit different, but I think as we've said before, we can still come to similar conclusions. And so I think this was like more of a first house stellium thing, but I translate it to Sun 12. Is spiritual practice being solitary and not being groups where my work stuff is. My spiritual we were talking about yoga, and he's like, I think yoga's good because it's not indoctrinating. Yes, everyone is doing the same flow, but you're doing it individually. You're modifying for yourself. Yes, you're being instructed, you're in a group, but it's not a group practice. We're not like praying to a thing or doing, like, I guess maybe in certain spaces you are, but not what I'm doing is not that. And so it being your own journey and your own practice rather than a church setting or something, that doesn't really work for me. That I've tried it.
Even having that be something that you're trying to access something outside of yourself versus going inside of yourself and being in touch with your own breath, your own thing. Not right. Like you guys don't have to be in unison breathing. You're all being asked to go follow your breath, Well,
and just in this topic of like secrecy or things, what's shared, what's not, the Pluto opposition for sure. But like, I mean, a trine to Neptune too with it is very like, you don't see me. And same with like squaring this very public Mars, where it's maybe a square, I think also indicates like a choice of like when to and when not to, or like what to share, what not to share, like that kind of that balance.
It also just makes me think of like an image I have of Lisa just kind of like coming up from behind someone and saying something really funny and then kind of dipping away.
I do. I like to.
Yeah.
Perfect. I don't like to scare. I don't come up to
you don't scare.
But it's like I want to just drop a little thing and walk away.
She's like, all right, bye. Back Homer into the bushes.
Yeah, exactly. Homer's very Taurus. I have the very Neptune Taurus opposition to the moon as well. And so I think there is some fight there against that trine because I feel like a lot of the time that is like unhealthy behaviors, addictive tendencies, like more of the stuff that I'm always like trying to get away from. But it is, again, it's an opposition. So it's kind of happening both things at once. And accessing my feelings isn't always super simple. Like I said, I'm quick to like road rage, but it's when I'm like looking for something, I'm not always finding it.
I was reading about the 8th house last night in Stephen Forrest's Inner Sky, and he talked about it being a place of like instinct and these kind of like, obviously we talk about the 8th house being, sex, death, taxes, but also these things that kind of elicit in us those kinds of responses, those really primal things that aren't necessarily like socially acceptable, but are absolutely part of the human experience. And being in touch with those things gives us a, richer experience. It gives us a more complicated experience. And we have to kind of know that about ourselves, that we have these feelings and that these are parts of the human experience that a lot of people would like to say don't exist. But I think living with the constant knowledge of like I am holding in the balance both like rage and nurturing or whatever. I don't know if those are necessarily the ones that are in the opposition, but like, yeah, how do you, I mean, this is where you have that cap trap. So I feel like it's maybe not, but also Saturn opposite the moon. That feels very, and Uranus as well. Yeah, what is that?
Nobody wants Uranus at 0 degrees. Nobody wants that. Why? No, I do. Yeah, I think I can change really quickly. I definitely, again, more towards the 12th and it being 8th house stuff. I think I mask my feelings a lot. Maybe it's more evident than I think it is. I don't, it's hard to see yourself from the outside, but I do, there are times that I definitely like shove stuff down. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. Wait, what was the question? Maybe that's my
that's, I was
answer.
gonna be like, how do you feel about, like, I guess, like, your instincts or those kinds of like, does that feel like that's something that's available to you? Does it feel like it's something that has to be kind of kept at bay? And how do you feel? And then maybe a follow-up, like, subsidized things would be like, how do you feel maybe about other people's those things?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I have pretty good instincts. There's like, people when you're like, I don't like them, and then like 3 years later they get canceled. I feel like that kind of thing happens to me frequently. Not always. Sometimes you get God. I'm not,
Sure.
I'm not a, dream maker in that way. But I think that when I follow them, they're good. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's sometimes hard to do. And I think that's the opposition thing where I'm like, because I do have anxiety and I do have other things that where I'm like, I've had to power through things before and it's worked out in my favor. It's benefited me to, put something aside and do something else. And so sometimes I don't follow my instincts and I end up in dangerous situation or whatever, and you're like, oh, I should have listened to that voice in my head. And I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten better about being like, hey, you have that voice today, like, don't do
listen
that
to
or
it.
whatever. Yeah,
I like it's interesting bringing up the durational part with Saturn. Like, maybe these instincts, these like feelings might not show themselves until later or different time. Like those Saturn aspects sometimes can indicate, like, I heard someone recently say, like, Pisces get better with age, like, it's just like that, these signs that tend towards needing more time. And I think having that Cancer Capricorn, especially with the moon, might be like, I'll just hold on to this for later, or maybe even like keeping like those like insights or notes for these things that might, this is just like an off, an aside comment, like that might be interesting to even track for yourself of like these feelings or predictions that might just take some time to show themselves.
all that stuff is retrograde too. And so I do think that is more getting older and later, figuring it out later, and those kind of things where it's like, it's not fast. It's not like happening, firing on all cylinders. Yeah.
Or that it's like for you, not necessarily to like, not say that you aren't also meant to potentially be a whistleblower or take someone down or whatever too, but it is that, like, I'm thinking of the classic thing that happens every season on The Bachelor or Bachelorette is that, like, there's the problem person in the house and then the one person goes like, I'm going to tell them about this person and they're going to see me as the hero. And it's like, no, then they end up sending both of you home because they go, why did you waste your date talking about this person? And that
every
feels
time.
very this kind of thing. Do you feel like you're able to use like, what does it feel like when those things are working with your moon, not against your moon? Or do you have a sense of that ever? Or like, do you have a way that you feel like you're able to tap into that?
I do. I think a lot of it for me, positive thinking is like the main thing that helps me get in a good rhythm. And it's hard for me because I think it's hard for everyone. We all have like a lot of negative self-talk and stuff. But I think especially if I can get up in the morning and like be nice to myself a little bit and those kind of things, it tends to make things flow smoother. And like not beating myself up and doing those things that help build confidence and all of that. Like, I find that it helps. Obviously, dozens of strategies for this. I mean, everything from ritual. I've tried everything, like everything from ritual all the way to like writing myself notes or like just like anything you can think of, like from magic to therapy to like all of that thing. It's like if you can just get in a place where you're constantly saying, oh, I'm full of luck, I'm full of wonder, I'm magic today, no one can touch me, like those kind
Lucky
of things.
girl syndrome.
Yeah, and like it works, for me at least.
Mhm.
I feel like if I can get my emotions in tune with what's actualized and what's happening, it flows nicely.
Well, that I have to go to your chart ruler. I mean, that's just, especially since it is getting this nodal square off too, which we could, I think a lot of that community working with others things. It's, I wanted to touch on this Pisces North Node in the 11th, and I knew we'd come back because the circle is ever flowing. But yeah, I think like those things of anxiety, and, jury's out. People have different feelings of like what's in the chart and what is just us, right? Like, can we find mental illness in the chart? I mean, I think we can, or like get hints of things that might be struggles or pain point. But Gemini definitely gets that thinking, worrying, like nervous system sort of stuff. On the like, not negative, I guess it's negative, whatever, on the low end, but also, of course, this experimenting and trying and just, shooting a shot, which I think goes with your air. I know they're not maybe trying by degree, but we are getting there's a lot of air present here that's supporting. I think we've definitely talked on the pod, like you're only like lacking fire, like not having really any fire placements, but of course we have fiery houses, what have you. Yeah, like what's up? What's with the Gemini-ness in you? It's because it's such a loud voice too in the chart.
Yeah, I mean, I've really come around from, especially if you've been listening from the beginning, like from Gemini energy. And I think a lot of the things I don't like about Gemini are things I see in myself. It's not that complicated, But
paging Dr. Freud.
yeah, calls coming from inside the therapist's office.
Is this about me?
But yeah, I think that I really do value having fun and being light, and it is, like I said, easy for me to get into the darkness and stuff and like get into the shadow and stuff, but I do feel like even though it's under the horizon line, that placement is a little more visible and social and stuff, and I do credit it for a lot of the times when I was telling you guys yesterday, I like put my foot in my mouth at a work thing and I'm like, it's like Gemini Venus, people still kind of like me or whatever, or they hate me and it's kind of fine, like it one of
or
those
you just
things.
move through it. People like the brilliance of Gemini is like, when was that? I don't even know.
Oh,
like,
I didn't say that. Yeah. Exactly. And then like and I think it with the nodes, like I definitely think have worked out not very hard to get towards like a messier north node, but like growing up, I definitely had like this story that I've been told is like that my mom couldn't find where my clothes were going or whatever as a very young kid, and like found out I was putting them away, like after wearing them and stuff, like where it was dirty, like I didn't get how things worked or whatever, but it was like I was putting them in hampers or back on shelves or back in drawers and stuff, where it's like I think I have that innate thing to have things organized or away, which I think is very like Virgo South Nodey. And now, I mean, I would not turn my camera around. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's like working towards that. Obviously, there are more helpful life strategies towards Pisces North Node that I think will come to me later in life, more of the spiritual actualization and stuff. But I think like in a physical sense, I've gotten very comfortable being a little messier, being a little outer. And I do think that even though it's square, I do think that Gemini Venus helps that.
Absolutely. Well, I think that Gemini Venus again is also, humor for sure. That kind of being having the funny thing to kind of popping in with the funny thing and popping out to the next thing and being just kind of like the little fairy that goes to each little group and drops the thing, and also is able to go like you were saying, that kind of put your foot in your mouth, but also is like, that's the weird thing that then starts the conversation. Like you don't have to be a part of the conversation to shift and move conversations, if that makes sense. But I think that also fits with that Pisces North Node of like, I hate using this phrase because I feel like it's so vague, but like putting yourself out there in that way is going like, okay, well, I'm still moving things forward, even if I don't always say the right thing. I am taking a step to make something happen, if that makes sense. My question about this go ahead.
I think I have a really tough time. And this, I think, also is a Taurus thing, but also Virgo South Node. But letting go of control is very difficult for me. Letting someone else handle it is like, we don't want to do that. And giving myself too much is definitely easy for me. Again, working towards not doing that. But I definitely have issues surrounding control. And I wouldn't say that I'm a manipulative person, but I do think I have, like, I could very easily fall into those tendencies, and I think I work very hard against it. Again, 8th house stellium too. So
well, and Chiron is also square both of these things too, and I think that can be a control protective place, let's say, or that where it goes like, I want to be the driving this so I can make sure I'm avoiding my pain points or my things that make me uncomfortable.
Yeah, like if
again,
this boat's gonna crash, at least I was at the
I wanted to crash
know
on
where
this.
it crashed.
Yes. Yeah, I want to be stranded on the island, not, out at sea, whatever. But how do you feel? My North Node Pisces question is, and I guess it's maybe hard to separate these from what's happening in the earth, but I think I'm asking more in a spiritual sense, in a bigger philosophical way. Like, how do you generally feel about the future? How do you how do you feel about the future as a concept, I guess?
Yeah, I think, well, I have the Aquarius Mars, right? So I think I am future minded. I think that contributes to some anxious thinking and all of that kind of stuff. However, I do, and I never really say this, especially on this podcast, because I want people to keep up their activism and I want people to keep fighting for climate change and for equality and against capitalism. But I kind of think everything's fine. Not like everything's fine, but I just feel like there have always been problems. People have always figured out a way, and we're like, I'm not a doom and gloom. I'm not end of the world. Those kind of thoughts come to me more internally, where I'm like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But I do kind of think like life goes on, the world, like, it's a cycle. Things change, things come back, things go, and cool. And like, there is beauty in all of the parts, even the difficult parts. Yes, we are destroying the planet. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that everything's just going to be okay, but it is, I do think I have more hope that, like, our parents probably felt like it was the end too, and their parents probably felt like it was the end too, and their parents probably felt like it was the end too, and like, we adjust and we create more, hopefully.
This is, and sorry, this is in your chart time, Lisa, but you're our last chart, and I think that question's really interesting, Julia. It's like, are any of us like past people? I feel like we're all very futurist or future minded, or maybe even, dare I say, present. Possibly. Sure. But like, I'm just was thinking that, I'm like, because I think Cancer gets like such a rap for the nostalgia and like the past sort of things, but not that we can't have times of reflection, especially we're recording this during Mercury retrograde, etc. But I don't know. I'm just putting that out to the table. Like, does anyone feel very like past oriented?
Well, I think yes and no, but also I don't think anyone who kind of like, maybe not nobody, but I think that being as into astrology as we all are, is inherently hope for a better future, even if it means looking to the past to figure things out. It still is with this idea that like there is free will. There's a reason to improve oneself. There's a reason to expand our knowledge about these things, because we can have a better future. If we didn't believe that, I don't think we would care about looking to these things, or even care about the past
or the patterns of the past that can inform how we can like double down on like, we're getting clues here. Like, this is the message that we should be going with, especially Pluto changing signs.
Yeah. What did these people miss, or what would these people wish they have known so they could have avoided these things? And I think, of course, can we avoid mistakes? Can we avoid those same pitfalls? Probably not. That's probably humanity's destiny for all of time. But at the same time, is it worth pursuing? Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, I think, I think I do I don't know how to say, I guess the Cancer moon part, I think I do get very strong feelings when it's a past thing. So like seeing all my family together, that's something that I would definitely feel like, because we used to do it a lot when I was a kid, you know, and it definitely feels like I can feel it in my heart, in my body. And so there are certain things that like hit in that way, but it's not like reruns of Doug that get me or whatever. You know what I mean? Where I think that gets put on sometimes Cancer energy, where it's like, oh, the TV you watched as a kid or whatever. I think for me, it's very much like cultural connection. It makes me feel open-hearted and moony. But yeah, I don't, that's where I feel like past orientation lies for me.
The most loyal to like the stuff they listen to in high school, or like, and I think everyone can have these tendencies, but Scorpios, I swear to God, like they are still watching same movie over and fucking over, same music. I know too many Scorpios that, and I mean, when you like what you like what you like. But I think that that's with this moon too here in the second house of like sort of this space of caring for yourself, also with this trine to Pluto. It makes sense, like that access is easy when you have to, right? Like in this sixth house sort of duty sort of way. Not that it's always on the mind or always really present, but when the time calls for it, or when it feels like it's the time to explore that.
I think that also makes sense what you said about having, you know, the right mindset, how that really can transform everything else. Seeing how that moon trine Pluto in the sixth is like, yes, if you do focus on those things, you can like absolutely revolutionize your day to day potentially.
Yeah, and I think I don't get the feels from some of those other things because it's happening in such a different way. Like if I'm getting to like come on and put on like, you know, Saved by the Bell on a streaming thing and watch entire seasons at a time, like that wasn't possible when I was a kid. And so it was randomized. You didn't always get episodes in order. Things would get messed up, or you wouldn't be able to see it a week or whatever. And so it doesn't feel the same. And like, it doesn't do that for me. Whereas, and I think, again, 12th house stuff is like, when I'm with my family, it's like I'm transcended. I'm like a little kid again. You know, you have those same, and sometimes it's bad. Sometimes you're like, my mom's treating me like a baby or whatever. But it's like, sometimes it really is like that thing where I'm like, I can feel it. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. Are there any parts of your chart? I wrote down like a favorite part, but is there any part of your chart that you'd like to like, I don't want to say defend, but or like to say like is a misunderstood part, or a part that you really want to like shout out? Like it doesn't have to be in a defensive. It doesn't have to be a defensive thing, but that's just like the What's
coming to me is the opposite, and I think that is a Mercury 12th house problem. But I feel like Cancer moon is kind of mid.
Whoa.
And nobody says it. Nobody says it. Nobody wants to say it. And I get why it's not and all of those things, but I do feel like it's not as like cool as people think it is. Or as like intense as people think it is.
Yeah.
I think
I can see that.
Cancer moons, like I know so many, and I think there is such the stereotype of like feelings, and like I don't know if we talked about this recently, but like feelings also can be fun and joy and romance and like being a shithead and all those things. It's almost like, yeah, you're feeling things, like cool, that's like normal. like that's and maybe that's what makes it mid, is it's like, isn't it obvious
it's kind of normal? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's kind of chill. Yeah.
Oh, you're repressed, weird, like you know, or like, or you're stifling, and we all, you know, again to varying degrees, but that's pretty, it's not really in conflict with anything. I mean, of course, opposition, but
it's oppositions, yes,
but oppositions are so like, they're just far. What can you do? There's no like harsh aspects. Because
I do like the 8th house, and so maybe that's why I feel like it's mids, because it's like opposite all of that stuff for me. But I do feel like and I never say it on here again because I do love Scorpios, but I never say it on here because I'm always scared there's going to be more of them. When there's one, there's more than one. And but like I told you guys, I went to the beach with a Scorpio friend, and it was like the best because we were just swimming the whole time. We didn't get all in the sand, you know? And I love swimming and I love that. And it's like, oh, I never knew this was the person I had to come to the beach with. This is the best, you know? And I like being on the sand too, but I really love the water. And so like I feel like Scorpio energy is so, and Scorpios, I think, are going through it right now. Like a couple of my Scorpio friends have messaged me with like family stuff and just, I don't know. I just feel like I do like that. And I do try to hide it, but I do enjoy that energy that's there. And I think the fact that they're able to talk about difficult topics and they're open about it and they'll tell you what it is for what it is. It's like the cool mom that gives you the sex talk or the death talk or the whatever, where it's like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you what it is. And I think that's much needed these days.
Well, it's the feeling stuff.
Maybe it's because, I think this is my like last question, but maybe it's because we talked about it in aspect versus on its own, but like Pluto in the 6th, I feel like that's a place, of course. 6th house can be health, and people are like, am I gonna die? Like, I mean, that's like Pluto in any house. Like, 1st house is like, am I gonna die? 7th house is like, is everyone around me gonna die? But not that it is that. But I'm curious if that's what that's been like, or how Pluto's might have shown itself while in this sort of scorpionic topic.
Yeah, I think for me, for sure, when I first saw Pluto in the 6th house, I was like, oh, I'm going to have health problems. And so there are obviously like the exercise and stuff making me feel good and right also helps with some of that, and having stuff organized, meal prepping, those kind of things. But also in talking about like my family life and 4th house stuff, having such a close and large family, I've experienced death a lot of people I'm close to a lot. And I mean, including, you know, losing my father and other people that are close to me. But I think that having experience in the restaurant industry, and I grew up in that, my mom owned a restaurant as a kid, is knowing like when to give service and when to accept service, those things being in opposition with the 12th house stuff. Kind of, I guess it is a more somber placement to me, but I think it helps in knowing when to be tactful at someone's event, whether it's, you know, a happy occasion or not. It's having the ability to step back when needed, and or like knowing that you should, almost. Not always doing it, but yeah, reading the room and knowing when you should or when you shouldn't do something, and kind of just having, I mean, sometimes someone will send a text and I'm like, you're so insensitive, and instead I write back like, I hope you're like having a great day or whatever. But it's like something where I feel like I am able to remove myself from saying something kind of off or mean or whatever. Not always, but yeah, I do credit that placement with a lot of that stuff.
Oh yeah,
cool.
Well, love it.
Any last words? Final thoughts?
No, any final? Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like if you have the 8th and the 12th house stuff, I think you should remember that those are above the horizon things. Even though they are those hidden places, they aren't the underbelly necessarily. And so I think it is like, I totally get wanting to be private, being introverted, secrecy, all of that kind of thing. But like, we need other people. And so that's why those things are up there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
that is a good reminder.
Yeah, you're so your chart, and I love it.
Yes. Thank you for letting us look at your chart.
Thank you for doing it. And everyone should book readings with you too, because this was so enlightening and helpful for me.
And maybe it'll be some communal offering that we can work
a group reading, so to speak.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah. Retreat, anyone? Let us know.
We'll see. Cool
chart.
These are our charts. Thanks for listening.
We'll do this again. I feel like we need to do this every year.
You gotta check in with your own
birthday.
Chart. Yeah,
that'd be fun. Solar return chart. Yeah.
It's so you know, I know astrology is a lot about, we come to it often about wanting to understand other people or what's happening kind of outside of us in our lives in these other circumstances. But I think it's also a really good reminder, looking at our own charts, that everything is also in our chart. Anything you'd need to know, any kind of answer, whatever is within yours. And there's always something kind of new or different, or a different perspective to look at it. So, you know, take a look, get readings, you know, familiarize yourself. Your chart is the most important chart to be kind of like familiar with, if that makes sense. I think, and I think it's one of the kind of best, most useful ways to know astrology and to use astrology is to know how things are happening in your own chart, and to see how that's doing, because we are the only ones that we really have authority over, and our relationship with ourselves is the most important one to be kind of nurturing and familiar with. So let this be an invitation to everyone to look at your own chart and to know it and come to love it as deeply as possible.
Totally. So helpful.
I hope.
And fun.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And ask your friends to tell them about themselves or whatever through their chart too. Again, as a thing, I think especially last night at this event, when people are kind of coming to astrology, I think people have been told a lot what they are or what something means, instead of being asked what they are and what something means for them, and letting that be the lens through which we learn that. And I think we've all been able to do that because we've learned astrology together. But I think that that's something that often scares people about astrology, or makes them fearful about having someone look at their chart, or talking about their chart, sharing those things, or having an understanding, because it feels like it's these things that are separate. But knowing that, like, you know yourself, and like, let's share what you feel about something, because that also helps us all learn astrology better too, to hear someone's lived experience of their placements.
Totally. So
and
helpful.
when you talk to people about astrology, you get to find your common placements and common ground. You get to do it a little bit faster than asking, did you see this movie? Have you heard this new song? Have you done this? And I haven't yet. I did that. It's like, oh no, okay, so we both have this. So what's your feeling on blah, blah, blah? Like, it's so much easier to get there. So
yeah.
And also too, just while we're here, some placements we might not know yet too. Like, there might be things that are still unfolding. Some might come more naturally. Some might feel like I'm still getting to know this spot. So I mean, that's the thing about the future and time, and also why astrology is so great for looking back at the past. It's like, it's all unfolding in the moment right now.
Yeah, baby.
Cool.
Well, thanks for going on this journey with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and on the socials, and subscribe to us here on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening.
Yes, write a review, please. 5 stars in a review.
Hey, if you see an angel number today after while listening to this, come and like DM, comment on one of our posts or some things that we all know we're all in it.
Yes, share your angel numbers with us. I hope you see them all today.
It'd be wild if they got the ones we didn't get, like a one
right away.
The 1, the 555,
yeah,
and the 999. 1, 5, and
9.
9. That's y'all's assignment. And that's it.
Yeah, let us know. And thank you again for listening. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.